in terms of liters of water. United States, we're almost at 600 liters of water per day. This does not factor in water that goes into the food we eat. So that's removed. This is water, the liters of water that people are using for activities. It can then include activities, it can be drinking, it can be showering, it can be washing your car, whatever it is that you're using, but it doesn't factor in the food. But here we have the United States and a lot of the developed countries leading the charge, with a lot of the undeveloped countries down here. If you line that up with wealth, you see that this is purchasing power per person in the countries. It's not as straightforward. There are some countries like the United Kingdom where you've seen that it's not necessarily just how wealthy a country is. It also has to do with the culture and the infrastructure and the savings that are in place for that country. So in the United States, there is a correlation, these two numbers are similar. Some countries are a lot wealthier than the amount of water they use. Some countries use a lot more water than they are wealthy. It varies. But the idea is that if we look at bulk numbers, the developed countries partially, it's a chicken and egg question. Are we located in water-rich areas, or are we using more than our fair share of water? If we break this down, so now I'm going from big to little, these are water withdrawals. Total withdrawals by state. You may notice something. Which state is the darkest color? Us, California. We accounted for the largest withdrawals in the country at almost 47,000 million gallons per day. More than the total that's withdrawn for Texas and Idaho combined, which are the next two states. The 20 states that are over here and the District of Columbia had less water withdrawn for off-stream uses during the late 90s than during the 80s. But the idea is California is using a lot of water. California doesn't have a lot of water. So what is California using the water for? I just pulled up some fun facts. This was a nice slide for me to make. I didn't know all of this. Maybe you guys, if you're native Californians, knew. So we are accounting for 22% of the nation's total irrigation withdrawals. Now that's just looking at agricultural withdrawals. But that goes along with, if you had asked me a couple years ago, I didn't actually know that California was the nation's largest dairy state. I would have said it was Wisconsin. They have the cheese heads, so they're sort of claiming that. But, we're producing 26 billion pounds of milk and cheese. I guess now I'm in California, we have very happy cows. Maybe that's why there's so many of them, they're happy. We also are the second largest cotton producer. I would have said that was a state in the South somewhere. And I did know that more than half of the nation's fruits, vegetables, and nuts are grown in California. But this is why we are such a large withdrawal state. That a significant portion of the resources for the country are being supplied by California, which does scale our withdrawals a little bit. That doesn't seem so egregious if we're supplying so much to the rest of the country. But what of that is, can we keep that going, is what this slide is for. This is looking at water requirements for food production. Again, it's in that square kilometers per year. Cubed kilometers per year. These are numbers that are historical. These are numbers that are projected. So now we're getting close to being able to look at 2015 and see how realistic this model is. But what you can see is that these are projections that are related to the population of the United States. These are just the amount of increases we need to meet the hunger target. This is not to necessarily produce more food. This is to meet the hunger target that I talked about in the previous slides. So we will have to be, this is almost 10,000 cubic kilometers per year in order to make sure that we don't have people hungry and in poverty. Can we do this? That's the big question. Is it sustainable to expect that you could, since 1960, that would be almost, a fourfold increase, almost fivefold increase in the amount of water we would draw? People don't know. If climate change predictions continue, is California supposed to get more or less rain? Probably California will get less, Maybe we'll get some punctuated storms that give us more increased storm frequency, but overall they think it will be decreased precipitation for the southwestern United States. We might not be able to meet these sort of water requirements for food production in the state of California. We'll start to know when we get to 2015 and see if, can we meet those sort of levels. If we go beyond California as a whole, we're now starting to look at counties. You guys should start to feel pretty special. Globally, we isolated the United States as being big water withdrawals. Countrywide, we isolated California as being huge for withdrawals. Statewide, LA County, #1 withdrawals for public water supply in the state of California. Now, that's not completely fair. What is left off this map? It's 26% of California's total public water supplies. What is not on this map?
Population.
Population, exactly. So this is not per capita consumption. Some of the places that are in the white for having, 0 to 25 million gallons per day don't have many people in them. Yeah.
My hometown is up there, and we have 250 people in the entire town.
Okay, yeah, so you guys are, you guys don't count. But you're sort of a drop in the bucket for Los Angeles. So that's exactly the point. You count very much. But we are a huge water withdrawer. Now, how many of you from Northern California? How many from around here? Okay, well this fight may not be fair, but whose water is Southern California drinking?
Northern
California.
California.
Who has better water conservation strategies?
Northern.
Southern California. We'll talk about it. So Southern California has managed to increase its population from the projection, we'll talk about in a minute, and never increased its water use. San Francisco has increased its population and increased its water use as the population increased. So there are differences before I paint it all as LA's fault. There are big differences in how we use water around the state. We'll come back to that. I'm going to make you guys each take positions when we get there. So if we go very locally around here, I'm assuming none of you live in Leisure World. Okay. I'm picking on Leisure World because it's a place that I can find their numbers. And because it's a concentration of people. I could have used any other large community in Southern California that records their water use. That's my disclaimer for picking on Leisure World. I also am pretty sure that most students don't live there, so I can pick on it a little bit. They use $1 million worth of water per month to maintain the landscaping and drinking water in Leisure World. So one portion of where is the water going locally is to landscaping in addition to drinking water. We also use a lot for sewage, both sewage flushing and sewage treatment. So 40 million gallons per day go to the sanitation district facilities. There is some of that within the sewage treatment that is used to irrigate parks as gray water, to recharge the groundwater, and it's returned to the ocean. So we'll talk a little bit about this sort of creative reuse of water when we get to solutions at the end of the lecture. But in Long Beach, so Long Beach, I love to use the Long Beach Water Department as one of my examples because of all the places I've lived. Long Beach Water Department is potentially the most conservation-oriented and progressive water department of any place I've lived. But if we look at where the water's coming from in Long Beach, 45% of it is local groundwater, 7% of it is reclaimed water, which is that category that I'm talking about from the sewage treatment plant, where they treat it, we can take it back and irrigate with it, etc. And then 48% of it is imported water. What do I mean by imported water?
Another state.
What?
Another state, like Colorado probably.
Exactly. Another state or some of that Northern California water we took from you. So Long Beach is better off than San Diego. How much of San Diego's water supply is imported? Exactly. Yes. More than Long Beach. 100% of San Diego's water supply is imported. They no longer have an aquifer that is fresh water. They've had saltwater intrusion in their groundwater supply, and 100% of their water is now imported. So, if we're importing, where are we importing from? So half of Long Beach water is imported from the Colorado River and from Northern California. that we just saw in that last pie graph.